You share one room with 15 relatives. No walls, no door, no space of your own. When you and your partner want a moment alone, everyone 20 feet away can hear you breathing. This was routine for 300,000 years. No bedroom, no locked door, nothing you could call fully your own. So how did humans live like this for most of our existence? And why do we suddenly need four walls just to feel comfortable? Let's look at what the evidence actually shows. In the early 1900s, anthropologist Bronisław Malinowski studied the Trobriand Islanders off the coast of New Guinea. Families slept in one hut, parents and children together. Malinowski recorded that couples had intercourse at night while their children lay only a few feet away. When a child stirred, parents told it to cover its head with a mat. There was no separate room, no hallway to retreat to. This wasn't unusual. Ethnographers found the same setup across dozens of cultures. The Juhuansi of the Kalahari built camps as open circles. Huts faced inward, fires burned between them, and sound carried freely. A cough, a whisper, a private word. Everyone within 30 feet could hear it. There were no walls between families, only distance and the dark. Anthropologists studying the group noticed something else. People rarely acted like they had heard a thing. Here's the strange part. Classical Latin had no word for privacy. The closest term, privatio, meant a taking away, not a right to be left alone. Historian Georges Duby documented this gap in his study of medieval private life. If a word doesn't exist, the idea behind it probably isn't either. Around 10,000 years ago, farming changed the layout of human life. Fields needed tending, so people stopped moving and started building. Permanent houses meant permanent walls, and walls meant something new, a door you could close. But most homes stayed one room for centuries after that. Medieval longhouses packed families and livestock under a single roof. Records from medieval England describe entire households sleeping in one hall. Straw for bedding, shared benches, animals a few feet away. Privacy wasn't absent everywhere, though. It depended entirely on rank. In Mesopotamia and Egypt, only the ruling class had private chambers, rooms deep inside palaces, guarded, off-limits to servants and strangers alike. For a farmer or a laborer, that kind of space simply didn't exist. Rome solved plumbing before it solved privacy. At Ostia, archaeologists found a public latrine with 20 seats in a row. No partitions, no doors, just a stone bench and a water channel at your feet. Romans sat elbow to elbow, using a shared sponge on a stick to clean up after. At Housestead's fort on Hadrian's Wall, soldiers used the same setup side by side. On the Palatine Hill, one latrine built for Nero's palace staff sat 50 people at once. Togas gave a little modesty. That's about all the privacy anyone got. Across the Islamic world, builders solved privacy with wood instead of stone. By the 1100s, houses in Cairo used carved wooden screens called Mashrabiya. From inside, a woman could watch the street. From outside, no one could see her at all. The screen also cooled water jars and let air pass through the heat. Privacy invented as a piece of furniture, not a room. Then, in 1215, the Fourth Council of Lateran changed something quieter than plumbing. It made private confession mandatory across the Catholic world. For the first time, people were told their thoughts had a space no one else could enter. Not a room, just a confessional booth, but a new idea of the private self. Separate bedrooms took another 600 years to become common. Victorian doctors blamed disease on shared air and shared beds. So married couples who could afford it started sleeping in separate rooms, sometimes separate beds. Servants slept apart from masters. Children slept apart from parents. A house divided into private rooms became a mark of wealth, not a basic need. Meanwhile, some people ran the opposite direction, toward total isolation. In 4th century Egypt, monks at Nitria lived alone in stone cells shaped like beehives. One monk died in his cell and wasn't found for 4 days. For most of history, that kind of solitude was strange, even alarming, not admirable. Anthropologist Jean Briggs lived with an Utku Inuit family in the Arctic in the 1960s. When she once spent a day alone exploring the wilderness, her hosts reacted with worry, not respect. Briggs later wrote that losing her place in the group felt worse than losing privacy ever could. In a lot of human history, being alone wasn't freedom. It was a warning sign. So privacy, the version we know, walls, locks, a room of your own, is recent. It grew out of farming, religion, disease theory, and wealth in that order. For nearly all of human history, people ate, slept, and argued within earshot of the group. What kept people sane wasn't walls. It was agreement, look away, say nothing, let it pass. That agreement is older than any door humans ever built.